Making story forming choices in the StoryGuide tutorial. In this lesson, you will explore the various ways to make story forming choices in the StoryGuide. You will learn how to add and remove structural choices, make choices for story dynamics, and illustrate each of the story points as you go along. In Dramatica Story Expert, either create a new file or continue with the Hansel and Gretel project. Save regularly as you progress through this tutorial. Click on the StoryGuide icon or use the Project StoryGuide menu command. Note that returning to the StoryGuide returns you to the last place you went. Otherwise, you go to the home page. Push the Home button to ensure that you are on the home page. Push the StoryGuide button. This is the place to start for those new to Dramatica and the place we'll use to show you how to make story forming choices for this tutorial. Push Level 1 to go to Level 1 of the StoryGuide. Open the story forming section by clicking on the Expand Topic icon. Select MC Resolve. The topic lets you choose or identify your main character's resolve, which has two choices, change and remain steadfast. Notice that there are 32,768 story forms remaining indicated in blue in the lower left corner of the window. This is the number of possible combinations of your story's underlying dramatics without taking into account the nearly infinite ways in which you may illustrate these dramatics. Notice the Help View area, which can be on the right, left, or bottom of the window depending on your preference. The Help View gives you helpful information about the topic and the choices you make. Select Change by clicking on the Change Radio button. Click on the Definition button in the Help View. Notice that definitions for change are displayed. Now select Remain Steadfast as your main character's resolve. Notice that the Help View now shows the definitions of steadfast. Select the Context button. Notice that the Help View shows you context-sensitive uses of your choice for the main character Remain Steadfast. Quote, steadfast as a resolve. At the end of the story, the main character's basic way of seeing things has remained the same as it was at the beginning of the story. For example, a man wrongly accused of murdering his wife remains steadfast in his pursuit of the real killer, believing this will eventually solve his problems. Despite all attempts to convert her, a woman remains true to her faith and her religion, believing her God will protect her, etc. Select the Stories button. The context of the Help View now displays the example stories shipped with Dramatica Story Expert that share your current choice of Remain Steadfast. Scroll through the titles to see them all. Change the main character resolve back to Change. The Help View now displays the example stories that have Change main characters. For this example story, we want to have the main character, Hansel, be a change character. Describe the main character's resolve of change in the story. Hansel changes from a childish, gullible dupe, willing to believe every story he's told, to a wiser and somewhat more skeptical adult. Notice that choosing the main character resolve has reduced the remaining story forms to 16,384. Select the Overall Story Domain topic. Move the Help View to the left side of the window by clicking on the pop-up menu at the top of the Help View and selecting Left. This leaves more room for us to work in the topics with structural choices, such as picking the overall story domain. There's an awful lot going on in this window, so we're going to simplify it for the time being by hiding the gists. Gists are an important new feature of Dramatica Story Expert and are explained in the next tutorial, Using Gists. Collapse the structural choices by clicking on the Expand and Contract icon in the left column of the Structural Item Chooser. Now you see only the item names followed by the number of gists associated with them. Use the Show pop-up and change the display to Items. Notice that the gist counts disappear. Click on the Explain button. An explanation of this story point, Overall Story Domain, displays in the Help View. Let's take a moment to examine the two major areas in this type of topic. The top part of the window has a question with a fill-in-the-blank area for you to write illustrations of your story point as it is in your story. For Hansel and Gretel in Hollywood, let's put in, Two 20-somethings from the Midwest get lost in Hollywood and do what they can to survive its colorful and often dangerous denizens. The lower part lets you make story-forming choices that help you identify how your ideas fit with the underlying story dramatics. Click on the Definition button in the Help view. Look to the story-forming choices available to you: activity, fixed attitude, manipulation, and situation. To choose one, click on it. Let's choose activity, then press the Add button. Notice that activity is now listed in the right-hand column, which indicates that it is one of the structural choices for this topic. It is now grayed out in the left-hand column. Also notice that the topic question has adjusted to account for your choice. Describe how activity relates to everyone's general troubles in the story. Another way to make a structural choice is to double-click on the item name. Double-click on Situation. More than one choice is acceptable, though it will be narrowed down to a single choice eventually, as you get down to a single story form. The description we added above sounds more like an activity than a situation, so remove situation by clicking on it and pressing the Remove button. Notice the story forming choices are down to 4,096. Press Command down arrow to move to the next topic. Notice that the context has changed. Now we're looking at Hansel's throughline, what Hansel is concerned with personally. Only two items remain from which to choose: fixed attitude and situation. Leave it unchosen for now. Press Command down arrow to move to the next topic, RS domain. Only one item remains for this story point because of the relationship domain's connections to the overall story domain. By directly choosing activity as the overall story's domain, we indirectly chose manipulation as the relationship throughline's domain. Click on Overall Story Domain Topic. Remove activity as the choice by double-clicking on it. Notice the story-forming choices are back up to 16,384. Click on Main Character Domain and see all four choices are now available. Normally, you would make story-forming choices until you reach a single story form, adding illustrations as you go if you can. However, this is where we'll leave off for this tutorial. Return to the StoryGuide homepage by clicking on the Home button. Click on the Overview icon in the icon toolbar to go to the project's overview window. Save your changes by using the File Save command. This ends the Making Story Forming Choices in the StoryGuide tutorial.